We are pleased to see such a great turnout to this very important event, and we thank you all for your willingness. Take about half an hour to 40 minutes.
The 2030 agenda will speak the same language, heritage, for our future.
Civil society and private sector. My name is Yoni Teki Teki. Pleasure to be the MC. I am the Director of Political Governance here at Pacific. Firstly, let me take the opportunity.
The Honourable Minister of Health from UA, the Acting Secretary General, our friend Ms. Osman Al-Brani from UNDP, members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, members of the civil society also. Please excuse me. Firstly, apologies for the delay. Secondly, please tolerate, I've got a very bad cold, so I hope you can understand what I'm saying. I can't hear myself actually, so I hope you can hear me. Beloved Naka, a very good morning to all of you here this morning. It gives me much pleasure to be here this morning to welcome our distinguished guests to Fiji as we come together to deliberate the implementation of three critical multilateral engagements. And they are, of course, the 2030 Agenda, the Samoa Pathway, and the Framework for Pacific Regionalism. We are gathered here as a region along with our development partners, civil society, and private sector representatives to chart our development in the years to come, to discuss where we are today and where we are headed, and how we can keep our interests, the interests of Pacific Islanders, at the top of the international and regional development agendas. As a region comprising small island nations with large oceans though, our engagement with the rest of the world is vital to our success. We have to be fully committed to the frameworks that will shape global development in the years to come. But we cannot be passive actors. We have to be advocates for the unique challenges that our region represents to our development. We cannot accept any one-size-fits-all approach. We need solutions and strategies that are tailored to the geographic, cultural, and social realities that we face in the Pacific. But it falls on us to highlight those challenges and identify how regional and international frameworks can be implemented in ways that have the greatest possible impact on our development and ultimately on the welfare of our individual citizens. Our development priorities have already been clearly mapped out onto the Universal 2030 Agenda. The next step for us is to develop a regional roadmap towards achieving those priorities. As we do so, ladies and gentlemen, it is useful to look back on our experience implementing the targets of Millennium Development Goals. I think we can all agree that the Pacific as a whole could have done much better in achieving those targets. Our progress was slow and uneven on issues that mean a great deal for the well-being of our citizens, including for the Fijian people as we are here in Fiji today. The lesson of that experience was very clear. If we don't put in place a workable and realistic regional game plan for these engagements, we will not succeed. We will not meet those targets. We need to think outside of the box to come up with a more creative solution going forward. Because our progress on these issues translates directly into higher standards of living for Pacific Islanders and greater opportunities for them to better themselves and their communities. So it is for their sake we need to do better. We need to view the development of an effective regional roadmap as an opportunity to address the deeper structural issues in our economies that are holding us back from reaching our true potential. Because our success in implementing the 2030 Agenda will be determined by how well we transform and modernize our economies to sustain growth, increase employment, reduce poverty, and provide us the capacity in our individual countries to be able to meet those goals. Essentially, the more sustainable and inclusive our economies become, the more prosperity we create, the more empowerment we create for our individual citizens, and the more capable we will be of meeting the targets of the agenda. We live in a globalized world, ladies and gentlemen. We have at our disposal a global marketplace that offers innovative, cutting-edge technologies that can be game changers for small island economies. These opportunities won't be gifted to any one of us on a silver platter. They need to be sorted out. We need to sort it out, as we've seen also in respect of access to climate finance. We need to be vocal about our development. our needs, our aspirations in every arena so that we can access and leverage the knowledge and expertise of the global community for the benefit of our citizens. And when I mention citizens, as mentioned earlier on, I mean all of our citizens, women, the youth, the disabled, the elderly, those who are below poverty levels or in the poverty bracket. Of course, in Fiji, just to share a bit of experience, we've already taken serious action in line with that vision. We have taken ownership of the 2030 Agenda by mainstreaming the Sustainable Development Goals into our national development planning, so that our efforts to deliver for the Fijian people are rooted in the advancement of the 2030 Agenda. The policies we craft and the development we bring, both working together to meet the SDGs and empower the Fijian people. We also, for example, ladies and gentlemen, using the World Research Institute to come and review our development plan, which is going to be launched very soon, to climate sensitize the plans that we put in place for the 5-year and the 20-year development plan. The Fijian government, ladies and gentlemen, firmly believes that realizing the SDGs means realizing fundamental human rights and dignity. From our end, we can best deliver that by granting access to greater economic opportunities. That is why we continue to invest heavily in our roads, our bridges, our jetties and other critical infrastructure, so that regardless of where they call home in our islands, ordinary Fijians, even if they live in an isolated island or they live in Suma, can get where they need to go to seek employment or new markets for their goods and services. That is why we are working to expand access to essential services like water and electricity, so that no Fijian feels excluded from the economic progress. And that is why we are building for the future, by investing in our people's education through our free education initiative, scholarship on merit, and tertiary education loan scheme, and by expanding the reach of health and medical services throughout the nation. It also means, ladies and gentlemen, bringing into effect laws and ratification of international instruments to mainstream those who are on the periphery of our society. This, of course, includes adherence to human rights and other anti-discrimination standards. It also, we believe, ladies and gentlemen, means an inclusion and a very strong legal framework in respect of anti-corruption measures. But the reality is, in the development goal quest, we need to ensure that there is transparency, there is accountability, and there is also an anti-corruption measure in place. Recently, as you know, our Honourable Prime Minister, as has been mentioned by the Acting Secretary General, was in New York, where he made history as a co-president of the first ever United Nations Conference on Oceans. To support the implementation of the SDG 14, Fiji submitted 17 voluntary commitments that cover a wide range of ocean-related initiatives and, together, promote the sustainable use of our oceans and marine resources. We will build on the success of the Oceans Conference in the year ahead and continue to rally the international community to reduce the overfishing and pollution that has devastated our ocean resources and begin to work to reverse the damage that has already been done. And on behalf of the Honourable Prime Minister, I would like to thank our neighbours in the Pacific for their steady support to Fiji in running a successful Oceans Conference in New York. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, there is no more pressing item on this agenda than SDG 13, the mitigation of climate-related disasters and the adaptation to other severe effects of climate change. We are all familiar with the nature of this grave threat to our development. As a region that makes negligible contribution to the carbon emissions, warming our atmosphere, it is we in the Pacific who are actually the coalface of climate change. Our oceans, of course, are warming up. We as a people and our future is the most at risk, and it is our development that faces the greatest challenge. And that spirit of urgency is captured in the Samoa Pathway, which calls for greater resilience in the Pacific Island countries. As President of COP23, Fiji is doing everything we can to protect the interests of the Pacific and safeguard our people's future. We are bringing a perspective solely needed on the international stage. Given the Pacific nations are already grappling with climate-related catastrophe. We know all too well that the success of any regional roadmap will be contingent on the actions taken by the global community to drive progress on the issue of climate change, both in reducing harmful emissions and providing assistance to vulnerable nations to adapt to climate-related effects. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeking full implementation of the Paris Agreement on climate change this November, and we are working with the international community to allocate more resources towards adapting vulnerable nations to the effects of climate change already being experienced in our countries. There is no question that this COP23, has recently become more consequential than anyone anticipated, given that the United States has announced its withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. But our commitment to the implementation of the agreement is unwavering. Our Honourable Prime Minister is in the United States as we speak, working with state governments and the rallying support from the private sector, civil society and ordinary citizens to continue working with the rest of the world to meet this challenge. And in the aftermath of the decision of the United States, we are seeing governments redouble their commitments to the agreement to fill the void of the American leadership and work with Fiji to make sure our presidency is an unqualified success. We, of course, need all of your support. So Fiji is confident, ladies and gentlemen, that the global community will still get the job done on implementing the Paris Agreement and ensuring a viable future for the Pacific. But we still have to do everything we can here at home to prepare ourselves for the even more severe effects of climate change we know are headed our way already. It will take discipline, as we have to ensure that climate resilience is given chief consideration at every level of our development. But it can be done. In our national development and in the development of our regional roadmap, we have to always consider the big picture and the long-term implications of our policy. We've got to think about the impact on our policies. We've got to think what impact our policies of today will have on tomorrow and the decades to come. We cannot build for the short term. We cannot tolerate band-aid solutions to the challenges we face, because by doing so, we will simply exacerbate those challenges in the years to come. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to the outcome of these deliberations as we develop our regional roadmap for the implementation of these important development frameworks. When we speak in a united voice as Pacific nations, we have shown time and time again that we can accomplish great things for our people. And we are confident that working together, we can lay a solid foundation for the inclusive, sustainable growth and development for our region. And I have much pleasure in opening this conference. Thank you very much.